Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, everyone. How we doing out there? What's shaking? Glad that everyone is here. Hold on a second. Let me adjust some audio here. There we go. All right, guys. Let me do that. There we go. So you guys, welcome back to Lou Reviews, the destination for critical thinking in the realm of the unexplained. Please don't forget to smack that like, share, and subscribe button and ring the bell. That way you're notified anytime we go live. If you want to support us with the almighty dollar, please consider checking out the Patreon link in the description below. We really appreciate it. Today, we're going to be discussing the new UFO prophet and the truth bringer, Karl Nell, and why he is now the preferred one to lead AARO into the future. Also, we're going to talk about the Soul Foundation's big weekend and the final nail in the coffin of MH370. Finally, I feel like this is done, dead, and I think Ashton Forbes has been exposed to the fullest degree, which is a good thing, because I think anytime rational heads take the day, it's always a win. Before we get started with the show, I want to say hello to everyone in the chat. Fifi Barbora, Greg O'Brien, Pat Calabria, Renee Cruz. Thanks for all the love. Please follow what Renee Cruz says. I appreciate it. Let's see here. Who else we got? James Craig, what's shaking? The UAP Terminator. I'll take that title. What's up, Stoned Ape? Swink McLeod, UFO Shane. Guys, thanks for being here. Simon Fly. Always a pleasure. Okay. So let's get into it, shall we, guys? It's going to be a very interesting and fun show. I think, there's just a lot of stuff that's been going on, and it's just so weird. It's amazing how we've gotten to the point now where the UFO community is championing and cheering a moving of the goalposts. First, it was 2012. With the end of the world. Then 2017 happened, and that was paradigm shifting. And then we were told 2020, 2021, things were going to start changing, and this is going to be taken seriously, and that we were going to get more answers and more transparency. Nothing really happened. Then we get to 2023, which is another year that people have been promising numinous November and all of these big empty promises that have never been met. And now the 2023, 2024 number has been pushed to 2030 officially, thanks to the Soul Foundation. So we'll get into that. Let's go ahead and switch views here so we can bring up all the things I'd love to talk about today, because there's quite a bit. Let's see here. Where do we get started? I guess let me go down to the end of my bookmarks here and just let's start with good old Ross Coulthart. This is like, again, just another one of the sort of silly things that this man pushes. And one of the things that the UFO community just loves hanging on to, these lore and rumors and promising of stuff. This 23-minute UFO video that Lou Elizondo promised years ago is still something that is pushed and harped on by these journalists that supposedly have access to this kind of information, even though they'll never reveal what it is, where it is, how it works, who runs it. They will never give you any details whatsoever on the things that they've been able to verify through multiple sources in most of these cases. But this is one of these stupid things that, again, nobody can verify, nobody can find, but people in the UFO community are praying and hoping, and use this kind of stuff as their fuel to keep them into the belief system. So Vicky Verma writes, Congress has seen a 23-minute video of a UFO UAP. It is yet to be made public. According to Coulthart, Congress, said their world changed because of what they saw. So they saw the Elizondo video. And this is a clip from Fade to Black. Let me go ahead and just put up my normal good old fair use warning. And let me fix that, golly gee, so it fits into the screen. So yeah, so there we go. This is fair use. This is transformative work. We are educating the public and critiquing the videos that we are sharing. This is covered under fair use and allowable by law. So let's go ahead and roll this clip from Fade to Black from a while ago, where it's him and Ross Coulthart and Jimmy Church talking about this 23-minute video. Oh, let me turn up the volume for you guys, also on both ends here. So this way you guys get this. All right, here we go.
I had a conversation with one individual who told me that when they walked out of seeing one of the videos that they'd been shown in a secure secure compartmentalized information facility, one of the rooms that they use to brief congressmen and women and senators, they said their world had changed.
Their world has changed.
The thing that I thought was most telling wasn't the reference to Roswell in Andre Carson's opening. It was the fact that the default video that they defaulted to was possibly, I'm told, the least interesting video in the cupboard.
That's so adorable. Now the 23-minute video that no one's allowed to see, that apparently changed the world of lawmakers that saw it, is not even the most interesting video in there. So there's even more interesting videos according to Ross Coulthart.
All the videos that they could have selected,
I hate when it does this. I hate Twitter.
One women and senators, they said their world had changed because of what they'd seen. The thing that I thought was most telling wasn't the reference to Roswell in Andre Carson's opening. It was the fact that the default video that they defaulted to was possibly, I'm told, the least interesting video in the cupboard. That of all the videos that they could have selected, they weren't prepared. They hadn't actually...
Okay, excuse me. They're talking about that stupid video that they showed at the congressional hearing from Moultrie, where they couldn't even get the playback of it right. It was really embarrassing. It was actually one of the worst moments probably in this whole ufology discussion. Okay, so he's not referencing the 23-minute video as that being sort of the least interesting of the ones. Okay, so I'm thinking, yeah, okay, let's go back. The 23-minute video, it should be the most interesting of them all. And that... I guess that was maybe up for discussion to show.
A way to actually freeze on the object that they were saying was represented in that video, which was essentially a blurry metallic sphere that zooms by an aircraft, a fighter aircraft at high speed. The key issue was that was one of the least interesting videos, I'm told, of what the Congress has been shown. Why did they do that? Why did they deliberately pick a video that was the most banal, uninteresting of the lot? The one that gave the debunkers an opportunity to go, oh, is that the best you've got? Seriously, this is not going to be more blurry videos, is it? When I'm told, I mean, I've spoken to people who've seen the 23-minute video, this apocryphal video that is apparently incredibly high definition, which shows a very clear, structured craft, a machine, a technological object in the air, taken by a US military pilot, detected, by the way, on multiple sensor systems, incontrovertibly a solid object, a piece of technology. What I got worried about by the way the hearing was conducted was I got the distinct impression that what the two witnesses were trying to do was walk back from the admissions that had actually been made by their own UAP task force in June last.
And that's the end of the clip. So, yeah, again, like this lore, they much rather have lore than facts. And, here we are so far removed from this moment of last year in the congressional hearings that, yeah, I mean, like none of those videos, neither the 23-minute video has surfaced or any sort of more context for that really blurry, shitty video that the DOD put out has been has been put forward. Again, just like just this promise of awesome information, even though we don't get it whatsoever. So, okay. Gosh, where do I want to go next? Let's see here. I guess let's do the old nail in the coffin for the MH370. So part 2 of the Julian Dory interview was released today. I got through about 2.5 hours of it. I didn't get to finish the last part of it because I had a meeting that I had to go to. But I was there. It was an interesting second half of the video, and I think the thing that caught everybody's attention was the last part of this video. But before we get to that, there was something really great that over the weekend, Estimate of the Situation had put out, and also Mick West had kind of highlighted and doubled down. And that was this highlighting of 2 different frames from the MH370 video. So Mick says 2 different frames of the MH370 video, 2 seconds apart, scaled, show the exact same image of a plane composited with the background. Notice the noise does not change around the plane, so it's still 100% fake. And he credits Estimate of the Situation with sort of finding this, even though Estimate of the Situation credits, I believe it was a Reddit post that pointed this out a long time ago. But it's just funny to see how this bullshit propagates again and makes its way back to a point where it's now on huge podcasts and being platformed by people like Kim.com, who had a space over the weekend with Ashton Forbes where they blocked everybody who would dare ask questions from the discussion, where they platformed this guy for hours to push this fake bullshit. But look at this right here. So this is a beautiful little GIF that they put together. If you notice here, and let me take down the fair use thing here so you guys can kind of see this with me. If you notice, there's 2 different, like there's a square around this image of the plane, okay, which tells you this is a composited image, because look at that. You can see the noise in the background, and this is just a frame. If you're not in the business, or if you don't really pay attention to this shit, you're never going to see this because the backgrounds are so similar, and it's only one frame where this happens. And also you'll notice here the plane doubles for a hot second with the infrared scan as well. So it just, again, it's a composited image. It's a bullshit video. So if it's a bullshit video, everything else past that is null and void. It doesn't count. It's not real research. It's not valid. It's not even worthy of having a discussion about, because the videos are 150 billion% fake. But what's even better is that there's also this. Okay, so although really the fact that this is what Mick West wrote, although really the fact that they use stock images to create a warp should have been enough. And this is the warp bubble that that the video uses, and when you could compare them, the video game warp bubble to the warp bubble in the MH370 video, you'll see that it's the exact same image. It's got the exact same fucking edges it's the exact same. It's a composite image. It's a fake video. I don't know how much more we could spell this out for you, but guess what? We will. Because now we have, at the very end of this Julian Dory interview, he put a sort of warning, or not warning, but just a caveat onto this 2-part 6-hour interview. What happened before the interview, what happened after the interview, and what's coming this weekend, that I think without a doubt will end this period, full stop. And I cannot wait to see this, because I love watching a bullshitter get called out in real time. And just like Julian said earlier today, and I retweeted it, I can't stand liars. It's right here. Like he tweeted this little clip here, and I'll play this clip too, because I did bookmark it, because this is from the part 1 of the interview. And Julian admits that he was a little frosty when he came into this interview because he had been hearing things that Ashton was spitting, talking shit about the crew and him and to people that he knows. And so he was annoyed coming into this video as is. So I think that's why Julian's bullshit tingler's spidey sense was turned on for this entire video. And he was really paying attention and challenging every single thing that Ashton was putting out there. And like all great conspiracy theories, a lot of it could be verified. A lot of it is true. But then it's taken to the conspiracy element where all of those facts immediately fall apart. Hence, conspiracy theory, not a real conspiracy. When it comes to UFOs and or some sort of teleportation device going on in this video that Ashton Forbes presented, outside of that, is there a conspiracy, legit conspiracy with MH370? Yeah, I think there's a lot of unanswered questions that make this whole situation very mysterious and very difficult for family members to come to grips with and have any sort of resolution emotionally from, because they never got to bury their loved ones. They never got to say goodbye. They never got to even know what the hell happened to them. And so, you know, if anyone deserves answers, is those folks first. But yeah, it's just, this is a great moment here. And, you know, just, this is the reason why people like me and Stephen Greenstreet and John Greenwald and Steve Cambion are so fucking mad is because we can't stand liars. We don't like being lied to. We don't like being manipulated. We don't like our platforms being used to spout some bullshit theory. Like, we don't like to be played. We don't like to be lied to. I think in a lot of ways, Julian, like he said in his own podcast, he's from Jersey. I have a feeling he's a bit of a performer too. I don't know if he's a comedian, but he gives me that vibe where he's just like, yeah, I'm going to call out your bullshit, because that's what comedians do to each other. They call each other out on each other's bullshit. That's what good friends do to each other. That's what respected colleagues do to each other. They have the ability and the window and the wiggle room to be able to critique the things that their friends or their colleagues are saying without fear of, oh, I'm never going to talk to you again, or you're no longer welcome back to this you know, area of discussion. It's so silly. But again, yeah, let's listen to this clip, because I think this is a great moment where Julian really questions the silliness of the story.
An expert that I have that is an expert in aviation who's gone on the record and spoken and testified before.
Do we know who he is?
I have not. I'm not willing to say his name right now. But
do you know,
yes, I can.
You have
I can corroborate
who
he is. Yes, I have looked into who this person
Okay.
is, and they seem to be legitimate. And they are willing to.
Why is it only they seem to be legitimate?
Great
Check
question.
out who they are, and they have testified.
They seem to be legitimate. So are they or aren't they?
Yeah, well, I would leave that for when we get to a point where we testify and they go under oath and that type of situation. So
This is great.
Wait, you're saying they haven't before, though?
they have gone under oath before, but in this situation, they haven't gone under oath, of course.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not expecting that, but they've gone under oath, and you've been able to check who this person is according to their name, and you could off camera show me who that is.
Right now, I'm not willing to go into that level of depth.
Whoa! Why aren't you willing to go to that level, buddy?
Because what I'm at,
is that I find them to be very credible, and from their information
but on
that they've
what
passed
basis?
me.
This is where I got to press you. On what basis?
Let me get back to this. Hold on.
Off camera, show me who that is.
Yeah, there we go.
Right now, I'm not willing to go into that level of depth on it. But what I would say is that I find them to be very credible, and from their information that they've passed me.
On what basis? This is where I got to press you. On what basis are they credible? If you're telling me like because what I'm at, let me repeat that in case you misunderstood. What I'm asking is, have you seen this person's CV, their resume? Have you verified that it is in fact this person talking with you? Have you gone and checked the work they've done in the past, supposedly on the record, to make them a credible source?
No, I have not gone into that level of detail, but that...
Why? Why? And why should we believe you? Listen to his excuse. Listen to this. This is crazy.
That's what I would go into if I was going to bring this to Congress and have this person come with me, which they are willing to do so. So
right, but you've already written a letter to Congress saying that to try to request the hearing. So wouldn't it be good to know that guy's bona fides before you did that?
Hello.
Yeah, and if I didn't think that they were credible, I would have definitely gone into more depth on that. But because
why,
I do, I'm willing to stand by it.
All right, so
I'm willing to put my credibility on the line.
Well, I appreciate that.
Who gives a shit? Who are you? Who are you, dickhead? Like, I'm willing to put my credibility on the line. Okay, thank you, but that doesn't hold any water here. Your credibility is not fact. You're saying that this source is the reason you believe this story to be true, but yet you haven't vetted them? And you're espousing this stuff as fact. And you're blocking people and free questions to those supposed facts. It's insane.
Is that how you determine they're credible? I'm willing to say that based on me saying they're credible, that if I'm proven wrong, then f me?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
That is what I'm
that answers my question. So
yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, exactly. Answers the question that, he's not checking sources. He's not vetting any of this shit. He's going with his belief system. And that's clear as day. But just to make it even more clear, this is a message that Julian Dory put out as soon as he put it at the end of the second part interview, and he also tweeted it out. And I've retweeted it already 3 or 4 times because I think this information needs to be put out there and people need to be made aware of this story and that it is a hoax and that it has been debunked and that it shouldn't go any further. It shouldn't be platformed anymore. It shouldn't be followed by anybody. It shouldn't be supported by anyone with a brain between their 2 ears. Like it's a stupid dead on arrival story. So listen to this. This is great.
Hey guys, there's some important context here that we did not have when we were recording this episode. Otherwise, this would have been totally different, and I wouldn't have even recorded it, to be honest with you.
Interesting.
But since we sat down here, Ashton went on a podcast with my friend Danny Jones on his show, the Danny Jones Podcast, where Danny had Nico from Corridor Digital do a full breakdown of the MH370 videos that Ashton is claiming is real, in which he proved definitively that they are 150% fake. There is no question about it. Ashton melted in front of this guy's
Look at his face. Look at Ash. He is so uncomfortable. I wish those out there in podcast land can see how uncomfortable Ashton Forbes is in this little clip that they play for this upcoming episode on the Danny Jones podcast. It is something to absolutely it's going to be so cringe in the best ways possible because again, like I'm like my empathy is fucking gone for someone like this. It's absolutely gone. I've got no more empathy for people who belittle and exclude real questions. And he's taken this bullshit as far as it's going to go. It's not going to Congress. That's for sure. Your mission has failed. But who knows? Maybe you'll get that show on Gaia that you're really angling for. That's a little rumor I heard. Don't be shocked if Ashton Forbes ends up on Gaia. Just so stupid. Anyway, let's listen to the rest of this.
About it, Ashton melted in front of this guy's video, breaking it down. It was very difficult to watch. I had a lot of secondhand embarrassment. I would like to say I am very embarrassed that I had this guy on the show. That is my fault and my fault alone. I should have done my due diligence on Ashton before I agreed to bring him on.
Here's what I'll say. I don't think Julian should be embarrassed because the fact that you had the opportunity to have him on your show, you gave him the room to put his information out there. And then the second you got, and this is what's beautiful about the internet, is it was immediately open sourced and people were, I'm sure, sending Julian and Danny Jones and anyone connected with this show at all all of the information that is either been out there or just needed to be refreshed and put into a different context. So that way it's like, oh, okay, great. Like, yes, it was a mistake to maybe have this guy on the show, but let's take a mistake and turn it into a golden opportunity to learn something, not only about ourselves, but about how terrible information gets disseminated, how conspiracy theories catch fire. And I think moments like this, even though I can't, I don't think Julian should be embarrassed, right? But I can understand as a content creator how I could definitely understand how your content that you thought was coming from a good place all of a sudden embarrasses you to a point where either you take it down or you have to make a correction like this on the episodes that you did. So I can totally relate with that feeling of embarrassment, but I will just say, I think in the long run, you're going to look back at this and go, that was an awesome moment, because it was a moment where not only did we show our audience that we could be trusted to make mistakes, we could be trusted to call out our own mistakes. And our audience has no fear of calling us out when we're making a mistake. And to me, that is way more valuable than 95% of the podcasts that are out there. The ability to correct what you thought was good information or interesting information or a good thought experiment, and then it turns out in retrospect, oh shit, maybe that wasn't such a great decision, and here's why. Here's why we fucked up. And I think that those are great teaching moments. So I know there's some embarrassment that comes with this, but I think there's more learning on the other end of it than there is embarrassment. So I hope you take that with you, Julian. I think you guys did an amazing job. I cannot wait for this episode to come out. Looks like this weekend, this Danny Jones podcast. So, I think it's valuable. So I'll just say that on just commenting on what Julian's saying here.
On Ashton, before I agreed to bring him on, I didn't do that, and so we have 2 episodes here that are with a guy who has no credibility, is a charlatan, a grifter, and
wow.
Yeah, I was aggressive with him because you guys didn't see off camera leading up to this, and some of the things he said, particularly right before we went on camera, that had me very pissed off. And I'm
so curious to know what he said.
Exactly what he is. And so in that first episode especially, I mean, if someone's going to sit there and lie to my face on camera, or also in other instances tell me things that are patently untrue, and then when presented with contrary points still insist that it's an opinion and that they think they're right, I'm not going to let that go. I'm never going to let that go. That goes against everything that I believe in. So
love it.
If you don't like that, I'm sorry.
Go kick rocks.
I handle business here. If there was a way to be softer about it, okay, maybe, but I didn't like this guy at all. It's the first guest I've ever had who I've ever said a bad word about. I've loved every guest I've ever had in here, including people who I disagree with a lot. I am very protective of my guests. I care about what they have to say when they come on here and how much they share and how much they're willing to do on camera, and that's a sacred thing to me. This guy killed that trust by defaming me privately to people I know and publicly in the 5 days leading up to the first episode. And I'll admit,
listen to that. He was defaming this guy 5 days before this episode aired because he was laying down the groundwork to get his support and belief system to rise up against this podcast and flood the comments and make sure that the conspiracy theory stays as live as long as humanly possible, because this is a reputation hit that they're going to try and work their way through by just repeating the lie over and over and over and over and over again. Because one of the first things, the first person to comment on my MH370 video covering the first video of this was Ashton Forbes. And his whole thing was, well, maybe Lou, you should look at the comments in the video. And, basically the comments, there was more comments in support of Ashton. Again, that doesn't matter. I don't care about that shit. Like, if there's a bunch of people supporting the conspiracy theory in the comments, so what? That doesn't make you right. Facts make you right. Facts make you right. And it's just amazing that this guy was riling up his support system to attack this show and try to delegitimize the interview and try to say it was a CIA operative was in the room and all these people were against him before the interview started. And it's just preemptive strikes to make himself look less stupid and less credible.
By about 48 hours before that first episode came out, I was fuming. And that intro reflects that. The intro from the first episode absolutely reflects that. So I am sorry
That's funny.
for having this guy on, and it won't happen again. And by the way, that episode with Danny on his podcast will be released a few days after this one, so keep your eyes out for that, and you'll be able to see the full debunking.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting, man. Like, I'm excited to see that full debunking. Because, again, like, I don't care for people that lie to me. I don't care for people that are trying to push some stupid narrative that just isn't there. I don't have time for it, man. I don't have time for it. And neither did Julian. And I'm glad that he called him out. I'm glad that, this is done. This is over. It's over. This narrative is over. And if you're pushing this in your spaces, if you're pushing this on your Twitter profile or as some sort of revelation in the topic, you're wasting your time and you look really foolish. And that's putting it mildly. Okay. So this was interesting. Obviously, over the weekend, the big thing was this Soul conference, the Soul Foundation conference at Stanford University. It was the big to-do. And so there was a lot of things that came out about it. Apparently, Bangkok Ford had a show about it today at 3:00. I didn't get a chance to watch any of it at all. But apparently, it's an inside look at what happened at the Soul Foundation. We're going to get into it and sort of the things that these guys are advocating for. But this was an interesting tweet sent out over the weekend by Stephen Greenstreet. And he writes, "This weekend, UFO activists gathered at Stanford University and projected that alien disclosure will occur by 2030. Here's a collection of quotes from Lou Elizondo, the main UFO activist that started this millenarian movement 6 years ago. So yeah, very much a millennial movement. But Lou Elizondo on disclosure, December 17th, he says, quote, "We may not be alone." On August 2018, he said, quote, "I think disclosure already occurred." On December 2018, he said, quote, "Disclosure already occurred again." April 2019, he says, quote, "A lot of people ask me, so do you think disclosure has occurred? And I think it has occurred." December 2020, 2021, quote, "2021 is shaping up to be a banner year." May 2021, quote, "Pay attention for the next 30 days. I think this conversation is about to get real interesting." It didn't. January 2022, quote, "I think 2022 is going to be an even better year. We've got so many things planned." January 2022, quote, The best is yet to come. We may be reaching a critical mass." That was January of last year. What has happened since then? Nothing. December 2022. "If you think these are exciting times, just wait for 2023. You ain't seen nothing yet." October 2023. "Keep the faith. Much, much, much more is coming. It's coming, and soon." November 2023, Karl Nell at Soul Foundation. "Disclosure is coming in 2030. So that is our segue into Karl Nell. Okay, so let's go ahead and look up who is Karl Nell. So here's his LinkedIn. We've got aerospace executive, senior military officer, and corporate strategist, DC and Washington area. Vice president and general manager with over 25 years of progressive P&L leadership in top-tier Fortune 500 firms. Bell Telephone Laboratories, Lockheed Missiles and Space, Northrop Grumman, actualizes board initiatives creating over $250 million revenue streams in intelligence community, DoD, and Fed Civ markets. Proven success achieving operational excellence, new growth, and business transformation in diverse high-end aerospace R&D, large-scale integrated solutions, and SE&I advisory services. Distinguished fellow, congressionally chartered IT Acquisition Advisory Council. Ivy League graduate, multiple disciplinary engineer, certified PMP, published author, War College alumni, and successful bridge commander supporting 18 Airborne Corps and JSOC. He is currently modernization advisor to Chief of Staff to the Army Futures Command. He's held a position at Deputy COO, Director Special Programs, as a colonel in the U.S. Africa Command. He was a vice president and general manager at ENSCO, and chief strategy officer at the U.S. Army Reserves. So basically a really expensive recruiter. So another interesting thing about Karl Nell, and this is the most hilarious part. So the biggest critique on, and by the way, Karl Nell is the person that people in the UFO community right now are screaming for to be the new director of AARO, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office that is currently headed up by Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, who's going to be retiring basically by the end of this year. Karl Nell is the name that's being thrown out there, especially this weekend. That's the one thing we kept hearing out of the Soul Foundation and people who attended and people who went and people who supported. Karl Nell, he's our champion. He's going to bring disclosure. It's coming in 2030. Make him the head of AARO. All of these calls for Karl Nell. But the elephant in the room, the thing that nobody seems to want to talk about, because the biggest critique on Sean Kirkpatrick is that he's ignoring whistleblowers and he's not listening to whistleblowers and he's ostracizing David Grush, and he hasn't even answered his emails, according to David Grush. David Grush didn't even receive an email from Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, according to David Grush. So Karl Nell, the selected champion of UFO Twitter, and this was posted by AARO Tech Research over on Twitter, the champion of hashtag UFO Twitter to take over the role of director of DoD AARO, replacing Sean Kirkpatrick, had been previously found guilty for reprisals against, wait for it, whistleblowers, and has failed 5 times to have it overturned and removed. Per the court documents listed at the link, and we've got the link here, I'll include it in the show notes after the show's over. In 2011, a subordinate officer accused Plaintiff Nell of retaliating against her for whistleblowing, allegations which were later substantiated by the Army's Inspector General. Plaintiff has attempted on at least 5 occasions to strike those findings from military record. This is an extremely interesting revelation, considering he is said to be the cooperating and working with whistleblower David Grush, the former intelligence officer who came forward claiming the government is holding alien bodies and craft away from the public while reverse engineering their craft, and also ironically had his security clearance suspended after meeting with Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. Per Corbell's own admission, and that happened in an interview with Corbell. He accidentally slipped that out, possibly leaking sensitive information to Corbell. Corbell's conveniently started this weaponized podcast shortly after posting several images and videos of objects in active war zone settings. Coincidence? Nell and Grush have a history together, and them coming forward together is no accident. Per the article by Modern Diplomacy, quote, retired U.S. Colonel Karl Nell, who served alongside Grush in an early iteration of the U.S. government's contemporary UFO analysis efforts, Grush's assertion concerning the existence of a terrestrial arms race occurring sub rosa over the last 80 years focused on reverse engineering technologies of unknown origin is fundamentally correct, end quote. Regardless, Nell went from being found guilty of reprisals against another military officer who was a whistleblower to now backing a supposed UFO whistleblower who is claimed to have been victims of reprisals from the government. Something smells fishy. And it's, again, the UFO community didn't find Karl Nell and decide to themselves, oh my God, this would be the perfect guy to head up the new AARO office. This guy's going to bring us transparency and truth. For sure. They did not find this guy. They were told to promote him. They were told this is who we want to head up AARO. Please put Karl's name out there as the potential person to take over Sean Kirkpatrick's role. This is their attempt at getting people to email and contact lawmakers to consider Karl Nell the next program director for the AARO office. That's what they're trying to do. Why do they want a guy? Why does the UFO community want a guy who, we just read his resume, is tied to Bell Telephone Laboratories, Lockheed Martin Missiles and Space, and Northrop Grumman? These are apparently the places where all of these toys are being hidden. And now we're going to turn around and scream at the top of our lungs to put this guy in the AARO office, because why? Why? What about this resume gives you confidence that he's going to be more transparent than Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick? And what gives you confidence that this guy is going to listen to whistleblowers when he has a lawsuit that he's lost 5 times? Why? Why is UFO Jesus ringing bells saying disclosure is coming? It's not coming. It just went from 2021 to 2022 to 2023 to fuck you 2030. I don't give a fuck. 2030. And guess what? We're going to move the goalpost again when we get to 2030. Don't worry about it, guys. Soon. 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 Trust me, bro. It's coming. 2030. I promise you guys. 2030. The goalpost just keeps getting moved back and back and back and back. You're not going to get alien bodies. You're not going to get reverse engineering programs in 2030. You're not going to get close to it. Because it doesn't exist. Primarily. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And it shows how easily manipulated you dummies are. How quickly you will be a lapdog for the military-industrial complex. You're a lapdog for Lockheed Martin and Skunk Works. You're a lapdog for a colonel who tried to fire a whistleblower. It's the dumbest thing. And this whole Soul Foundation was nothing. It was nothing but an opportunity to do shit like this. It's a photo op. It's a way to get attention to funding. Because again, we've already covered this, but let's just go ahead again and just highlight what the Soul Foundation's number 2 sort of initiative is: to provide reliable, cutting-edge advisory research to the United States and other national governments, as well as corporate clients. They don't give a shit about everyday Joe Schmo. They don't care. They're not interested in giving you more information. They're interested in providing cutting-edge advisory research to the United States, national governments, and corporate clients. That's what they care about. Soul will establish itself and remain the foremost think tank on UAP, the source of the most informed and insightful policy recommendations available, to offer insight and guidance to the public on cosmological and political implications of UAP. Give me a break. Give me a break. They're positioning themselves to take advantage of a lot of government contracts that are going to be awarded to them, to look at werewolves smoking in trench coats again, to have drunk guards making up reports to continue the government contract. Except it's not going to be just $22 million this time. Don't be shocked if this goes into the billions. Look, they've got a 25-year game plan in this Soul Foundation. And 2030, I promise you, by 2030, they will have big government contracts. And who do you think those government contracts are going to be beholden to? You? UFO Joe? You? UAP Mike? No chance. You guys are patsies. You're being used to push propaganda for the military-industrial complex. You'll never get any answers, let alone respect. It's so crystal clear. This is what it's about right here. Just being best friends with these guys. He's sitting here. Listen to this quote. It's great spending time both before and after the Soul Conference with Ross Coulthart. I'm so happy for his new gig at News Nation. He's one of the few journalists who's actually doing journalism while the rest are asleep at the wheel. Yeah, he's the only journalist in the world that's got the scoop on this one. So fucking stupid. Also, you're literally hugging the guy that's holding from disclosure from everyone. He knows where the UFO is so big it can't be moved is, and here we are, giving him a hug. Thank you so much, Ross, for hiding disclosure and being my friend. Thank you so much, Ross. You're the best. You're the best. Did you see my show? Did you see the GIF I put out? Debunkers? About debunkers? Did you see it? Thank you, Grandmaster UV, for subscribing to the show. I appreciate it. Did you see the old debunkers? Huh? I got your back, Ross. I got your back. You're my boy, Blue. Oh man, so lucky. So lucky, man. And then here's the Juan. This guy is like ultimate cult leader #1. He writes, Soul concluded a bit ago with a short but very poignant presentation by David Grush, who joined via Zoom. His key comments, verbatim. Imagine a future where we no longer need to speculate about our place in the cosmos. Are we speculating about our place in the cosmos? I think we know exactly where we're at. And I think we know exactly how empty it is out there. So far, I haven't seen much. As far as intelligence life is concerned, we haven't seen any. He also says the release of this info on NHI, non-human intelligence, has the potential to unite humanity regardless of the ontological shock that would ensue. Disclosure will involve the releasing of info in a controlled and planned manner. There you go. It's on their timeline, not yours. This is a new era of spiritual awakening, according to Dave Grush. We are in a paradigm shift with the power in our hands to transform the world. We're working towards a more enlightened and interconnected world. I love these last two because they're not looking to transform or interconnect or enlighten anything, because this was a private conversation at Stanford University where nobody but UFO zealots and cult members were invited to the conversation. That's who was there. And it was closed. They weren't allowed to take pictures. They weren't allowed to take video. As far as I could tell, this is not going to be made public anywhere. They invited Dave Foley from Kids in the Hall was even there. God, man, feel bad for you, dude. I can't wait to when you finally come to the realization that all of these guys are full of shit. I'm shocked that you haven't come to that realization yet, Dave Foley. I really, really am. I really am, man. I cannot believe you cannot, especially when it comes to Jeremy Corbell. Like, yeah, it's flabbergasting to me. Again, I guess it's not that flabbergasting because I always just think of myself, like, you know, not to say I'm the smartest guy in the world, but smart people fall for dumb shit all the time. And Dave Foley's a really smart guy and someone I look up to from a comedic sense. I mean, I grew up on Kids in the Hall. That was my favorite show. I'm not muted, right? I don't know. These lights just went green. Looks good on this end. Okay. Dave Foley is one of the members of Kids in the Hall. He's an actor. He's also now has a UFO podcast, and he's like Jeremy Corbell's best friend. Breeders Syndicate says, what we need is more closed session in Congress for UFOs. The more closed doors and classifications, the better. I could see where you're coming from this. Like, I would love to see... you know, again, like the House Intelligence Committee, the House Oversight Committee. I would love to see these guys, like if these were the senators and lawmakers that were coming out of SCIFs with Dave Grush going, okay, there's something here. We really need to pay attention to it. If they were saying what Luna was saying, if they were saying what, you know, Burchett was saying, then I would have to step back and go, okay, we need to pay attention a little bit better to this. I'm also hearing rumors, and I'm interested to see, because I'll tell you this right now. If Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick and Susan Goff are playing games with whistleblowers and people trying to tell their stories behind the scenes, that's fucking unacceptable. And I will call that out if that comes to light. But so far, that hasn't been the case. And there have been ways for Dave Grush to prove definitively whether or not Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick is lying about trying to get in touch with him. I don't think that's the case. And I think the sentiments that Kirkpatrick had at their conference in Washington, D.C., which, by the way, was live streamed and televised for anyone to come watch and anyone to ask questions and challenge them. It wasn't an invite-only conversation, unlike the Soul Foundation. Lou Elizondo has said this in the past, that they're looking to create a community where haters are not allowed to be there. Haters, naysayers, debunkers, skeptics, genuine questions that question the narrative. Those are not allowed in their community. They don't want it there. They don't want to be challenged on their belief system, man. They want to take this belief system and put it in front of the federal government and turn their religion into a taxpayer funded I don't want to say mission, but sort of like calling. Like they want to do this for 20, 30, 40 years. They want billions of dollars to roll into this research, and they want to be the ones that decide where that money goes to. And it's a scary proposition because I genuinely feel that a lot of this money is going to be wasted in the same way that OSAP, BASS, ATIP, all of these programs wasted money. Here's some more discrepancies from David Grush. And so again, this was sent to me by Aerotech Research. And he writes, major discrepancies in the David Grush resume found. And this has to do with his PTSD claims and his, claims that he was in active duty. There are very similar claims also from Lou Elizondo. As a matter of fact, I think I bookmarked that, and we'll go back to a story from Tom DeLonge, what Tom DeLonge said about a story that Lou Elizondo told him, which, you know what? I think it might be time. Let's see if that segues into my Max Moskovich story, because I think it's time. I think I've given Max Moskovich enough time to be honest with his audience about what happened to his show. I wasn't planning on doing this today at all. But yeah, it was such an interesting clip. And with this information here, I think it's just only right. It's only right to talk about. It's one of these stories I've been dying to tell. But anyway, let's see if we get there. We'll see if we get there. Major discrepancies in David Grush's resume found. David Grush's resume, which states that November 21st, April 2022, he was IMA to the commander of the 318th Cyber Operations Group, Detached 3 at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada, was in a reservist role. But there was a problem. There isn't a Detachment 3 at Nellis Air Force Base, only a Detachment 2. Was it a typo? Maybe, but after looking at his resume, which could be found here, and he links his resume, it's hard to fathom that a typo like this would be missed in such an exquisitely typed out document. But after confirming with these two sites, Current Ops and Military Ops Source, it's clear that there's no such thing as Detachment 3. In reference to the 318th COG at Nellis Air Force Base. Was this an intentional typo? Well, the IMA status within the same line on the resume stands for Individual Mobilized Augmentee, which basically you're not guard or reserve status, but part-time for the United States Air Force, and you can pick and choose your time, 2 weeks a year minimum. So that means that Grush, if his position he listed with the 318th COG is real, typo or not, could have worked at minimum only 2 weeks in that capacity. That would lead one to wonder why you would even put that on your resume. Well, to fluff it, of course, it also gives the impression that he was in a role of importance with the way it's worded, like bullets on EPRs in the military that were done by every airman supervisor in the active duty Air Force to evaluate the progression annually. Also, in the same time frame as his stint with the 318th COG, he was also working in the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, or the NGA, but that's located in Colorado Springs, Colorado, where he claims he was working as a senior technical advisor for UAP transmedium issues. So how could he be doing both? Well, if you go to the NGA site with the link here, you'll see that there's a selection or a section for military career opportunities where they have a reserve integration program. I actually stumbled upon this when I Googled this exact job title with the NGA that he has on his resume, and it opened up to this part of their website. Under the reservist program, it lists their 3 core capabilities, one being traditional drilling reservists, hence the 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year slogan for the Guard Reserves, which would lead one to believe he worked in this capacity since he also worked at the 318th COG in the state of Nevada while working this job in Colorado. And don't forget that he was also a licensed realtor at this time. Yeah. Remember that whole real estate fiasco where Middle of Mayhem tweeted out his real estate occupation, which was verified when he tried to reach out to him via phone call? So he had 3 different occupation jobs in that time frame? That's weird. That is weird. Is this resume actually legit? Seems like some major holes in it to me, and that's not even discussing the time where he states he was at Blue Sky Innovators, a company made from DARPA, that he worked until 2021, which he may have had some issues there, but we could save that for another thread. What are your thoughts, UFO Twitter? Seems like a lot of fluff in this resume. And we've got, pictures of his resume here and where he says he's worked, and, could it be a typo? Maybe, or could it be just a fluffing of the resume? I think that's more likely. Here, let me see something here. There was another one that he posted that was great, that brings into question his claims of PTSD. Give me a moment. Let me find it here, you guys. Mm-hmm. I thought I'd bookmark it, but I guess I didn't. Okay, well, I can't find that one, but let's check out this, because again, this was a video that Tom DeLonge put out quite a while ago, and this is a crazy fucking story. And Aerotech Research writes, because Lou Elizondo and Tom DeLonge are liars, this video of a podcast interview of Tom discussing the, quote, war story that was told to him per Lou, even saying Lou said multiple times, is verifiably false and potentially a case of stolen valor. Hope it's not in the new book. So listen to this, because this is absolutely crazy.
As a special forces operative, like a soldier, he fought. Yeah. He fought the Taliban in Afghanistan like a month after 9/11 with Secretary of Defense Mattis, General Mattis, Mad Dog Mattis. Yeah. Mattis saved his life. Lou got pinned down in a huge machine gun fight, and he called for air support, and they said there's nothing in the area. And he said, I looked at my friend, and I said, we are going to die. We're dead. There's like 100 of them shooting, and they're pinned behind a rock. Then he heard something on the radio, and Mattis comes flying in on like one of those Bradley vehicles, saying, and big door flies down. He's like, get in, boys. He's in a T-shirt. He's all, I'm busy. I'll get to you in a second. He's on the automatic grenade launcher, just wiping people out. And Lou said he's on the ground just looking up at this guy in the sunset kind of thing, like, who the fuck is this guy, and he saved his life, so Lou came from like really being in war to moving up to a place where he had a lot of responsibility with a lot of very sensitive things. And
yeah, and I think when you go and you look
as a
oh, you guys only heard that. You guys didn't even see it, but at least you heard it. Okay. I had it on the wrong window, but I'm glad you guys heard it. Yeah, man, I wish I had bookmarked these. It would have been better if I'd bookmarked those. I thought I did. Sometimes I think I bookmarked stuff, but I just don't. Let me just make sure it's not back in here somewhere. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Lou Elizondo wasn't even in Afghanistan right after 9/11, like that story says. Like, there's no... General Mattis has never come out and ever mentioned Lou Elizondo. Never once, publicly. So, yeah, I don't know, man. It's stories like that I hear Lou says all the time. And I guess that gets into... the Max Moskovich story. Wow. Okay. So last year, if people notice, all of a sudden, after the Italian San Marino conference that Lou was at, that Max Moskovich interviewed Lou for a few times for his Max Moskovich podcast. That's the moment. After that, Max basically stopped doing UFO videos. He just went dark. And the reason he went dark is a story that he told me. So I've told this story behind the scenes to a few people. And it's one of the funniest things. And maybe Max one day will actually get the guts to tell this story. I mean, he's told me to not tell this story. He begged me months ago, please, Lou, I'm working on something. But I've been told he's given that exact same line to a few people when in regards to Lou Elizondo. I think really what he's trying to do is protect his access to Lou Elizondo. And because he knows it gets him clicks. It's a great way to get eyeballs to your show. And Max Moskovich, whether people like to admit it or not, for some reason has had incredible access to Lou Elizondo. So here's the story. So Max drives to Italy to meet Lou and interview him for his show. And so he says it was the very first time he laid eyes on Lou. It was a very strange moment. And if you know Max Moskovich, you know he's from Holland. And English is not his first language, but he's an incredibly brilliant guy. He's really smart, and he speaks multiple languages. And I mean, he's a filmmaker, he's a journalist, he does a lot of things, including being a legitimate Thai boxer. And that will be important here in a second. So he says to me, Lou, it was the weirdest thing when I saw Lou Elizondo for the first time because he was dressed like I had never seen him before. A couple of things that stuck out to him. The first was a tweed jacket, a really heavy, thick tweed jacket that you would wear in winter. And this was the middle of summer in Italy. It was hot as hell, according to Max Moskovich. He also had noticed something very strange. He said, Lou, it looked as if Elizondo had dyed his own hair because the hair dye line on his scalp was so prominent. It looked like he'd done it himself. It didn't look like someone with a professional salon hand had dyed his hair. And then he said the weirdest part was he had a pipe in his mouth, like a Sherlock Holmes twisty kind of pipe, you know, that you just hold like this. And he said, Lou, it looked like, he's like, have you ever seen, my daughter has a toy called Mr. Potato Head. And I was like, yeah, I know what Mr. Potato Head is. He's like, it was as if my daughter dressed up Mr. Potato Head. The outfit just made absolutely no sense. So he was like, that was the first red flag when I met Lou Elizondo. It was just so weird. It was so different. But he's like, the thing that really convinced me that this guy was full of shit was when they went out to dinner later that night. So Max, of course, was a fan of Lou's, just like I think a lot of us are or were a fan of Lou Elizondo. He's a very personable guy. So they get to this pub and they're having some drinks, and I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Lou has forearm tattoos. And so Max noticed on one of his tattoos that there was a reference to a Muay Thai boxing gym in Thailand. Like, there's only a handful. And this one that was tattooed on Lou's arm was a school that Max Moscovich had attended himself. The reason why he noticed the tattoo and he got really excited about it was because he was like, finally, something that I've some common ground that I could connect with with Lou Elizondo. This is my in to really get to know him. Basically, like, oh, this guy knows about Muay Thai boxing. He's got this tattoo on his arm. He's got to know all about this school. I wonder who he trained with. Like like Max Moscovich, I'd say the most excited thing he likes to talk about is Muay Thai boxing. So immediately, Max starts questioning him about the tattoo. And Max describes to me, Lou Elizondo's face went white. And he knew immediately that Lou had no clue about what he was talking about. And he was just rambling on, making things up to make Max feel comfortable about this common ground. And Max knew immediately everything he was saying was bullshit. And that was the moment right there where Max stopped trusting Luis Elizondo. And he stopped doing his show. He just stopped everything. And he told me that he was going to tell this story and maybe even come on my show to help tell the story. Because for me, I didn't go looking for this story. Max called me after he saw my last couple of episodes and he saw what happened with Lou and he saw how much shit I was getting. He called me with this story to make me feel a little less crazy. To which my response was, dude, why don't we tell this story? I feel like I'm hanging out here in the wind, flapping all by myself, and there are stories like this. So many stories just like this one that people are just not talking about. And so, I've given hints of this story, and it got back to Max, and Max called me all upset, like, what are you doing? You're going to ruin this for me, blah, 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 blah. Give me some time. I'm working on something big. I don't think he's working on anything. I think he's just protecting his access, and he doesn't want Lou to know the stories that he's put out there in private, questioning Lou Elizondo's honesty. There are so many stories like that. So many. Where people come to you and they're like, yeah, you're not crazy. He's a liar. He lies all the time. Those are the stories. Those are what my sources say. My protected sources. And sometimes I'm protected. In this case, I'm not protecting Max Moscovich anymore. Like, I should have told this story last year. but I didn't want to burn one of the last few bridges that kind of was still talking to me. You know, and I was trying to respect that story for Max. But it's like, if more people would just have the bravery to tell those stories that they've experienced behind the scenes, man, it would be so helpful. It would be so helpful anytime these guys come out and make extraordinary claims or try to, you know, convince lawmakers to write certain laws or sequester billions of dollars to study something that they're not qualified to really look at. Again, like, what is an immunologist giving us expertise opinion about metallurgy? Can we get a metallurgist to talk about the metals that Gary Nolan is looking at? Yeah, he's such a, like, the more you hear these stories, and this is a good question, like, wait, man, Lou's got a fake tattoo? I mean, like, I guess, or he's tattooing things on himself that he doesn't really understand the meaning of. And then when you ask him about it, instead of saying, I don't really know anything about it, it's just something I got when I was drunk, whatever, he just starts making up lies about it. It's like he can't be honest ever. And just going back to his comments on his last appearance ever, I'm not a UFO guy. I'm a counterintelligence and counter-espionage guy. That's what I do. That's what I was hired to implement. I was hired to do that job in the UFO community. Counterintelligence, counterinsurgency. So I don't know if anybody has a real good idea, except for maybe his wife and his children, of who that guy really is. I've talked to journalists. I've talked to, again, people like Max Moskowitz, who were really good friends with him. I've talked to production assistants and producers and directors of documentaries that he's been on. And all of them come back with the same thing of, yeah, I don't trust them. I don't trust them. Or I saw something that made me question his real intentions. Same with me. And it's just a pattern that repeats itself over and over and over again. And it's like, UFO community has blinders to it. They don't want to see it, even though it's smacking them right in the face. Anyway. So, yeah, I guess that's basically the show, guys. That's the show for today. I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? That's what I'd like to know. You know, like, do you guys think that this stuff is acceptable behavior? Do you think, you know, what do you think of the Max Moskowitz story? Like, is that just crazy or what? I'm like, and the things he said, like, him and Vinny used to be partners and buddies. He did not have nice things to say about Vinny Adams. Not at all. And that doesn't shock me. It doesn't shock me. I don't have nice things to say about Vinny Adams and the way they position themselves to bogart your audience to help themselves. That's what Vinny Adams did to me. That's what Vinny Adams did to Max Moskowitz. That's what Vinny Adams is doing to all of those disclosure girls. Like, he's just using them. And that's what a lot of these people in this community do. They just use each other. It's insane. Was I going to talk about the stuff Julian sent me via Twitter? Well, Julian didn't really send me anything via Twitter. I mean, he just sent me the, basically. Oh, well, yeah, he did send this. I guess I could talk about this. He did send me in a message, this right here. So, this is Victor Iannello, who was referenced. He was cited in the podcast with Julian and Ashton. And he writes, I went around and around with him on Twitter, as in Ashton, about the SATCOM data, satellite imaging capabilities, range of line of sight communications, etc. He's not a technical expert on anything, refusing to accept the expertise when given to him on MH370. Victor just discovered your website after some digging. Ashton mentions the anomaly and data from about 1840 UTC. Can you speak to that, or have you gotten an article about that somewhere? Since it took so long for the data to be released, could it have been altered? To which Victor writes, there are no anomalies at 1840. There was an incoming unanswered SAT call, and SAT calls generate no BTO values because the C channel data is not synced to a time slot. The later data is normal handshake and logon data from the MH370. And log on data for the MH370. I explained this to Ashton many times. When he persists that normal signaling data is due to UFO interference, he is making claims that are easily proven to be false. His claims that he is correct because he understands Excel spreadsheets is laughable. And this is from Victor Iannello from Radiant Physics. I mean, it's insane. Like, so again, and this is leading up and before this interview, and it's if again, this is why I don't feel too bad for Julian. Like, I understand how he didn't see this information. Like, I didn't see a lot of this stuff up until the last couple of weeks, but this has been propagated for months and months, and I mean years at this point. Really, this guy Ashton's been pushing this. And now it's reached its crescendo. He's gotten his 15 minutes of fame, and now it's dead in the water. It's dead on arrival. And that's what I love about the internet. That's what I love about open sourcing. That's what I love about the murder board, is if it doesn't survive that, and there's no facts left on the murder board, then it's bunk. It's bullshit. And that's what I love about the internet. And that's what I love about, you can't argue this stuff anymore, man. Like, if you're going to make extraordinary claims, your evidence better be spot on. And I recommend this to anyone that has amazing video or what they think is game-changing video or pictures or anything like that. My recommendation always is to contact Mick West and have him look at it first. And let me tell you, he will take the time, especially if it's a good mystery to dig into with good data. He will look into it and he will give you as honest of an answer as he can. And I think that would service a lot of these extraordinary claims before they get lit on fire and embarrassed on podcasts. Run it by Mick West. And if Mick West is impressed by it, then run with it. Then run with it. Then put it out there for everyone to critique. Because if you've got a Mick West that's going to chime in and be like, hey, I took a look at this and here's what's mysterious about it. Does it mean A, B, C, D, or E? No, not necessarily. But hey, we should look into this. And trust me when I tell you, he would do that, Mick West. I mean, we got him to sign our petition to get more data and improve FOIA in regards to the UFO discussion. So if you give him something logical, if you give him something rational, and you request, and he thinks it's got merit, he'll say so. So that would be my suggestion to anyone that's putting out incredible information. Run it by Mick West, because if it doesn't pass his sniff test, then it's a waste of your time. It truly, truly is, man. It truly is. Want to say what's up to East Coast Tina. What's up, East Coast Tina? Let me She's our one on the scene over there on the Twitch stream. Oh my gosh. Paid for comments. Let's see. Love it. Let me unpin it. There we go. Anyway, you guys, yeah, that was the show. Let me see if there's anything you guys have to say here. Not crazy, just ridiculous. 100% expected from Lou. Lou was just trying to play a part. Yeah, I mean, Vinny has bad breath, allegedly. Zemog, now that Lou knows Max's story, Max's toilet will be clogged with large turds on lonely lightning lit nights. Oh man, what's the latest on Ashton Forbes? Yeah, watch the beginning of the show. We go into it a little bit, but yeah, dead on arrival. I must be doing it right, because a lot of people that ended up being hated, screwing people over allegedly, I've never personally had an issue. Kept a proper distance, I suppose. Yeah, that's healthy. I recommend keeping a, at least it wasn't from Radiant Technologies. But yeah, I definitely recommend keeping a proper distance from some of this stuff. You know, that way when it turns out to be bogus, you're not, you're not so disappointed by it. Managing your expectations, always the toughest thing to do. But anyway, you guys, that was the show. I appreciate everyone being here. Please don't forget to smack that like, share, and subscribe button and ring the bell. That way you're notified anytime we go live. If you want to support the show with the almighty dollar, we really appreciate it. Links are in the description below. Once again, thank you for embarking on this journey of discovery together. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and thank you for subscribing to Lou Reviews. Until next time, thank you for helping raise the bar. Have a wonderful night. We'll see you soon. Peace.